So let's talk Synthwave. Let's do it, man.
Synthwave. All right, so we're here with Alonso, a person I've actually learned a lot from. And one of the first things I kind of want to pick your brain about is how did you get into this genre? And how did you get into teaching this genre to other people?
Oh man, I think my story is super boring and just like a million other guys and gals that make synthwave. They will say, I watched this movie Drive back in 2011 or 2012.
Right.
I fell in love with the music, and it always stuck in the back of my mind that I really liked that. I've been making music. Right now, I'm going to be 46 later this year. I've been making music since I was 15. I play the drums, the guitar, sing, and I've made many different styles. And when I watched the movie, I really liked the sound. For me, it wasn't a really straight up 80s sound. Let's leave that discussion whether synthwave is 80s music or not. In any case, I really liked what I heard, that synth music. Let's call that synth music, that synth influence with a lot of nostalgia. I really liked it, but I was doing some other stuff at the time. But it always stuck in the back of my mind that I really liked that. And throughout the years from 2012 till 2018 or something, I made attempts at creating some of that music, but without just trying to do it for real. And it was sometime, I think, in 2018-19 that I put out an EP, 6-track EP with my vocals on it, that I said, okay, I want to do this a little bit more seriously and see how it goes. But then I let it fall off the radar. And around, I think, 2021 or 22, I was just, I wanted to challenge myself with something and create some kind of channel, some online something related to music, because I was just tired of the corporate life and all that BS. And I said, I want to do something for myself that's, that I can really look forward to, that I could make some good out there in the world. And for whatever reason, I said, let me do this about synthwave. That's when I started the Synthwave Dojo channel, I think back in 2022. And it was just, I figured out, or I recognized as I was trying to make this music, that if you want to make techno, trance, house, there's tons and tons of channels, online academies, online and offline schools that teach you how to make all those substyles of electronic music. But back then, synthwave, there weren't any good videos. There was Stephen Ingham and maybe a couple of other channels that hit and miss or here and there had a few videos, but no one really dedicated to this stuff and giving it the attention and the importance that it deserved. So I said, let's put two and two together and let me make that can stand the test of time, something that really has value and where I go super deeper than anyone else has done before me. So someone who wants to learn this can really learn it properly and really give them enough tools and enough knowledge, or at least point them to the right places so they can really make this music beyond those synthwave in 5 minutes videos that you can find anywhere, but really don't teach you anything and just leave you dissatisfied, wanting a little bit more.
Interesting. Yeah, you get into the deep of it. It's cool because like you present these PDFs, or you put the text on the screen. You're kind of going through different bullet points, and I haven't really seen. I guess you do that as well, Chris, on a lot of your stuff, because you kind of break things down, and that's a cool way to teach because you're showing the practical side once you're in your DAW and bringing up some synths and how that works, but you're also bringing up the theory and the concepts of how we're actually going to implement this in the DAW, and I think that's a cool way to learn. I don't really see that very often on a lot of videos out there.
All that stems from my the way that I learned how to play instruments. I played the drums professionally for a number of years, and I went with a teacher or mentor for like 7 or 8 years, and it was super intense when it came to theory and all that. So I had a very strong technical background in how to learn music. So I knew that whenever I wanted to teach anything, when the time came to do that, well, I did teach how to drum many times, but I knew that I wanted to present something that was beyond like, okay, you just play with notes and come up with a melody that you like. If you have a lot of experience, yeah, that's the way that you do it. But for someone who has no idea how to come up with a melody, if you tell them that, it's completely useless. So that's why I went into so much into those depths of finding the theory, then making it simple, also providing some kind of PDF, because if I talk you through 5 or 6 bullet points or whatever, you're going to forget about them. That's why I created those ebooks, so you could use them as reference, again, strengthening your knowledge and your educational experience. And you could really learn from that. That's all I'm about, like really trying to go super deep and leaving no stones unturned when it comes to synthwave.
Do you feel like your percussion background has an influence on your music? Because coming from, like you said, you were a professional drummer. Do you think that weighs into your now experience with synthwave?
I think it's more the experience of playing in bands and writing music. I sing, I write lyrics, I've crafted full-length tracks in pop and rock, etc. And I think all of that plays more into the way that I produce music. And the drumming piece is really, it's really important for me in the sense of knowing when a drum fill sounds bad, and if something is out of time or the groove doesn't sound good, right? If it's bad or something. But it's not like I overcomplicate the grooves that I use in my music. It's kind of like the opposite. I just do as little as I can to not get in the way of the music. And if you hear most of my drum grooves, etc., possibly you would never figure out that I'm a professional drummer, because I don't try to show that in my music. It's just like I take a step back and this is enough for what for the picture that I'm trying to paint. I don't need it to be like Rush or whatever to show that I'm a drummer, right? But certainly my whole musical experience of knowing the flow of music, when something sounds good, when things are getting boring, and if something's out of sync, that definitely has helped me a lot in making music.
Man, that's a good way to put that out, because I come from a metal background, and when it comes time to program drums, that's one of the times where you have to set aside a whole day, because those drums are insane, right? Go through a velocity pass, go through okay, does this fill sound right? Maybe. Okay, can we do like a quick flam on the snares? Then what kind of rolls are we going into? Some weird off timing kind of stuff. So like when you're kind of saying like, I'm just trying to put the drums to fit the picture that you're trying to paint, that makes so much sense, because sitting there doing some synthwave stuff, I'm like, I feel in a sense, and it's weird to say this, but I'm like, I feel in a sense I'm lazy, because I would always do so much on the metal side, but I'm like, but this works perfectly for the track I'm doing. Like the groove is there, the drums sound nice, it's a slower tempo, has time to breathe, and you can do crazy stuff. Like for example, the trick I got from you is where you get the little burst of noise and you put that on a massive reverb, so it's not really a gated reverb, so to speak, right? But you're kind of like sneaking in that noise and reverb. I'm like, holy shit. And like, there's space in the music to do stuff like that, because there's no way you can do that in like a metal track at like 160 BPM. Pop, 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 you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I don't get tired of saying this, but if you want to make something simple like synthwave, it can be very simple. There's producers who have made a career of just using very simple stuff like your bass line, 8th notes or 16th notes, a rolling bass line, continuous notes. You can get to the midnight or time cop level just doing that. Drums, simple snare on the 2 and 4, 8th note hi-hats or 16th note hats, kick on the 1 and 3, and that's pretty much it. Because the music, as long as that foundation sounds good, is solid, it's about the rest of the picture that you're trying to paint, the textures and the synths and the nostalgia or the vibe that you're trying to paint. The drums do help, but it's not like the most important thing, right? And yeah, you can make things a little bit more complicated, spice things up if that's your thing, but like I said, legendary producers in this scene make super simple music that connects with a lot of people, and it's not because of the complexity, it's because of the simplicity and the impact and energy and emotion that they seek in other places that is able to shine through without all the clutter and the BS of complex things going on, and all of that helps to paint the picture.
Interesting. Wow.
So important. Wow. Yeah, I often say that the drummer is the most important part of the band, but when you're talking about a different style of music, sometimes it's best just to kind of lay back and let everything else play out. Like you said, the most important elements are sometimes the nostalgia or the vibe that you're trying to create, right, with the music itself.
Yeah, and it's super hard when you're an instrumentalist, like a guitar player or a drummer. And when you play in a band, you always want to show off your tricks, your bag of tricks. You want to show off your licks and the cool stuff and techniques that you're practicing.
Give me 8 bars of a solo.
Every guitar player wants to solo on every track for like 3 minutes. But when you're in a band, it's, for the most part, it's like taking a step back and just figuring out what the music needs. Of course, if you're doing prog metal, Rush, or Dream Theater, what the music needs is different than if you're playing Toto. For example, if you listen to Toto, any of those guys were gods at their instruments, but they showed so much restraint because they were just focusing on supporting the music, the grooves that they played. No beginner could ever play them, right? But they sound so simple.
And they had a CS80. That's pretty crazy.
And
Just throwing that out there.
a dude like Jeff Porcaro and his brother, you think, yeah, the notes are very simple, but the way that they played them with the restraint that they did, with the power that they did, is super hard to do. Like playing simple stuff with groove and with emotion is super hard, as opposed to just throwing a lot of stuff in. And sometimes that restraint is something we also need to understand and learn to manage as producers, because we want to cram in as much stuff as we can. And I like to say that typically when I create a piece, I start with a foundation of maybe 4 or 5 sounds. That's what I call my main stack. If you think of like a hamburger that has 5 layers, I seldomly like to start with more than 4 or 5. And those are drums, bass, some kind of lead, and then like a harmonic support, like a pad or chords or an arp, not all of them at the same time. So I start my initial 8-bar loop with 4 or 5 layers. Then as I turn that into a full-length track, I figure out, and I like to discover, okay, what else do I need? As opposed to starting with 12 different layers and then trying to figure out where to cram everything in. And we'll have a tendency, since all of these are my babies, I don't want to eliminate any of them. I want them all to be in the track. Then your track ends up being a clutter that doesn't have a distinct and clear listener's journey, and it's confusing, right? So try to, at least for me, it's initially try to get away with using as few elements as possible, but as many as you need for the impact and emotion that you're trying to convey. That's like my principle. If you can pull it off with 5 elements in your track, like 5 main elements, that's great. If you need 10, okay, cool. But I seldomly use 15, 20, or 25, like those track counts when I see producers sharing about 70, 80 tracks in a project. It makes me angry. Yeah. It makes me want to punch the screen, because really, I never use more than 10 or 12 synths at the most. Sometimes I get away with 7 or 6 in drums. And again, for me, it's less is more, and use as few elements as you can to get away with the impact and the emotional connection that you're looking for.
Interesting.
So let's talk about your desert island kit. Like, people who are unfamiliar with Synthwave, what would you say your top 3 synthesizers of all time would be to create this style of music?
Oh
Good
my gosh,
question, Chris.
That's easy. I would say some kind of Juno emulation, a Prophet 5 emulation, and then Oberheim OBX emulation, whether it's the OBXA or the OBX. With those 3, I would be a happy man. Well, I would try to throw in a DX7 maybe. I would forgo...
Oh, I wasn't expecting a DX7 in there. Interesting.
I would see if I can sneak in that 4th one. But definitely like the Juno, Prophet 5, and the OBX are like my favorites, since I couldn't do anything without them.
Which one? Do you have the one from Arturia, or do you have a different emulation?
I have the Arturia V collection, which has the Prophet, the OBX, and the Juno. Also have the Tal Juno, and have the GeForce OBX, and the, what's the other, OBXD by something Digital Disco. And all of those 3 are really good. I think that, at least for me, the best OBX emulation is the GeForce one. To me, that sounds like super robust and growly and super solid. But the other ones are really, really good too.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a really good question. I'm so glad Chris brought that up, because I was the last time the night before, because I was going on like a binge. I'm like, what other synths do people use? Because I was just like, for a while, I don't like to research. I like to do something first on my own for the most part, and then once I'm kind of like at a good spot, I kind of reach out and look around and say, okay, what's up? What are you guys doing over there? So like I started some of these tracks with like a Juno, right? The Juno from Arturia, which is, I guess, kind of similar to the Tal. I've never used the Tal. I heard it's great though. And then also one that has blown my mind that I've really liked to put in tracks is the Prophet 5 emulation from Yuhi, the Repro 1 and 5. Dang, dude, those things. Wow. Like in a synthwave track, they really I mean, Diva, of course, obviously. That's kind of like a foundation of that. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. Do you ever mess around with Repro?
No, I have Diva though. And currently I'm taking a Diva sound design course from, I don't remember whom. And I purchased a sound pack for Diva, and that is one of the synths that I've had for like a year or so and a half, or even more. And I have like so many synths, I can't get to them all.
Yeah.
I'm a synth junkie, to be honest. Like if I see a synth on discount,
Oh, we all
oh
are.
man,
Yeah.
if it's like $20, 30 or 50, I won't even think about it. I'll just go for it and I'll just come back around to it at a later point. And I think that's where I'm with Diva right now. And also because I'm going through the midnight phase where I'm researching a lot of the midnight, and they use Diva a lot. So to get that kind of sound, I'm going deeper into Diva. So I thought that would be a great chance to come back to this synth and play with it. But I don't have neither Hive nor Repro, and those are really, really awesome synths.
Yeah, I think for you, Repro would be like that one would blow your mind. Yeah. It's just ridiculous how good that one sounds.
But you can do a lot with Diva. I mean, you could do bass, you could do synth stuff. It's got all those it's got that analog richness that you find in a really quality synthesizer. It's interesting that I am glad I asked the question because I wasn't expecting your answer. Like I thought you were going to say like Serum, Falcon, and like Vital. Yeah, I thought you were going to say something a little more on the modern side, but you're like, no, I use all emulations, and that does make sense. Do you have any hardware in the studio, or you're just entirely software?
I'm entirely in the box. I have a MIDI controller, an Arturia MIDI controller, which I really love. I purchased like 2 months ago when my old controller died. And what I love about this controller is the Keylab Mark II 61. Like all of the knobs and the sliders are automatically mapped to all of the Arturia synths. So if I want to bring down the filter and the resonance or whatever, it's already mapped to my synth. So it's kind of like having a hardware synth. So to me, that's really, really good.
Nice.
My synth collection, I'm sure there's guys that have more. I may have over 50, possibly have the massive legacy that I call it, Massive X or Massive 10, Vital, Pigments, Anna 2. I don't have Serum. I don't know why. I think I have like so many wavetable synths that I don't think I need that one. But it's like I go through phases where depending on what I want to do, I would produce tracks using only the same synth. Like this last weekend at the community that I run on Discord, the Synthwave Dojo community, we have these monthly challenges where we make a short track, 90 seconds or so, in an hour or so. Like a fresh idea, you have to start and finish it in an hour, give or take. And you can only use one synth. And this time we did Dark Synth, and I listened to a lot of Carpenter Brute, and I knew that I wanted to use some choirs, organs, and some subs for my basses and some heavy distortion, so I chose Pigments for all of my sounds. And I kind of do that and also for the current EP that I'm working on, which is based on a story in Berlin in the Cold War era of the 80s, the CIA, Stasi, and the KGB vying for power. I'm kind of keeping it with the OBX, DX7, and a few of the synths of that era. So I like that kind of thing, always to limit myself to a certain way in terms of a certain track. I will say I'm just only going to use this kind of synth, or in an EP, I'm only going to use these 4 or 5 synths, as opposed to using something for the bass line, something else for another thing, and end up using 15 or 20 synths. I don't know, I just like to use these self-imposed restraints, and I feel it works really well for me and helps me to get to know synths very well.
Yeah, I 100% agree on that one.
For sure. Interestingly enough, you said the OBX. I had an OBX 8 in the studio here last year. It was my first experience with any synth of that caliber. It was the desktop version. And I just remember the feeling of like hitting the first chord on that thing. And I was like, oh my God, like the very first preset, you're just like, what? Like, I'd never heard synthesis like that. I think I might like the software version a lot better. The desktop version had a lot of menu diving that I couldn't get into. There was a lot of like page 2, page 3 kind of stuff that really didn't fit my workflow. So ultimately I sent that synthesizer back, but it was really great to hear the power of, that classic sound.
I can only imagine what that sounds and feels like. I've only produced in the box, but imagine playing a real Juno, real Jupiter 8, or a real whatever, like an Oberheim. That is certainly something to remember, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a question about your educational style. Like you really go hard on the educational angle, which I love. So what do you feel like is the greatest thing that people can take away from your channel? Are you trying to attract producers who have never played, synthwave before, or are you just trying to like give them helpful tips to help them along their way? Because before you, like I had never really thought about synthwave as a thing.
I think
so what's the big takeaway
these days for me? I'm trying to help out people who are beginners and want to do this the right way, not the fly by nights, the synthwave in 5 minutes. Yeah. Forget about the theory. I don't want to learn how to make a proper chord progression or come up with a lead. Just give me the 30-second thing that can unlock my full potential. To me, that's ridiculous. That's not going to happen. And what I want to offer is pain, hurt, and frustration of really learning something the right way. And this is an analogy that I always use. If you want to become the next Michael Jordan or a professional basketball player, there's no 5-minute hack video that's going to get you from beginner to NBA level in a day, in a month, in a year, maybe in a decade, right? So in this day and age when everyone wants everything to happen fast and quickly and give me the summary without pain and effort just so I can push a button and I'm this synthwave or whatever electronic music god, that doesn't exist, right? So that's kind of my way, and I say this all the time, and I go super deep in the formal music theory, kind of to give the sense to the viewers and for people that are looking to really learn that there are no shortcuts. And I think I have a few videos about that. You have to learn things properly. You have to learn how to create a proper bass line and the drum groove, etc. You have to learn how to put a chord progression. You can't rely on BS, the MIDI packs and the MIDI pack. I got approached by the MIDI pack and all that, and Taylor and all that. All that's pack. Cool. It helps, certainly. But to me, nothing beats like really being able to do something and know why you're doing it, and having the skill that if all that was taken away, you can create a darn chord progression, and it's really not that hard. Again, the Synthwave gods, the Midnight and Time Cop, they only do 1, 4, 5, 6 chord progressions, right? That's almost all they use. So you don't need to be Mozart or Bach to remember that. But again, you do need to care enough about something and really put in the effort and be willing to suck. Like one of the things that I do when someone's coming into the Discord community, I have a submission or application process where I ask you, are you willing to suck for a long time and to have experience pain and frustration until you really become good? It could take 4 or 5 years. Do you want to really become a synthwave black belt, to filter out the people that are just looking, first of all, to be a fly on the wall and never contribute, but also to really bring to light that music creation, music production is super complicated. It doesn't matter if it's synthwave, techno, house. It has a super strong technical component as well as a creative, of course, but like really getting the sense of all the EQs, the compression, the multiband this and that, the arrangement, creating the listener's journey, how to start, how to stop, the drum grooves, the samples, how to pick great samples and patches, all that takes a very long time. If you've been a musician, possibly you're starting to race a little, let's say, closer to the finish line than someone that's just coming fresh off life and attempting to make music. So, but if that's your experience, it's gonna take a very long while. There are no shortcuts. There's only pain and suffering and elbow grease and, really putting in the effort. There's nothing I can do to help you that would help your first track be like the midnight level synthwave track. That's not going to happen. It's not going to happen on your 25th or maybe 50th or maybe 100th track. You have to be willing to endure that. Same as running a marathon, same as becoming a real black belt in karate. Can you imagine how many punches and kicks you're going to take, how much pain and discomfort to get to that professional level? It's not easy, man, right? And that's what I'm about, really trying to teach people the right way. Again, something that stands the test of time. And if someone wants to do this properly, know that I'm going to support them and that they will be able to find most of what they need if they follow the plan, if they stick to it. They will be able to improve their skills, develop their skills, and make the music that they have in their hearts and souls.
And for your website, so synthwavedojo.com, do you like if someone's looking into this and they go to the website, what can they expect to get from the website? Because I know you can sign up, you can do different courses and stuff like that. So what would they expect once they first log on, and where would they first start? Where would they first go?
The website currently, you can think of it as a Udemy or Sonic Academy devoted to Synthwave, where I'm the only tutor. So right now you can join, you can get yourself a free account, and you'll find all the videos that I have on YouTube, but without ads. The dude with the abs and the woman that says that I don't know how to date young women, and all that, the BS, the games that pop up when you're trying to watch a video. So you can get yourself a free account.
Yeah.
You'll be able to search my videos, and some of my videos that I have as standalone videos on YouTube, they're better organized into courses. Let's call them informal courses. Like there's one, Basic Drums, that has like 8 videos of mine related to drums that are all over my channel. The same for Basic Melody. It's like 9 hours of, I don't know, like 10 or 12 videos that I have there, presented to you in a package. That's what you have right now. In the future, I'm going to have videos that are never going to make it to YouTube. I want to do stuff like listen to Spotify and dissect stuff and talk about stuff, and I don't want to do that on YouTube. So new content that's still going to be free, that you can find on YouTube. And in the future, I also want to have some kind of membership, like a premium membership, where if you pay a yearly subscription, you'll get more in-depth courses, more formal self-study courses to really dig deep into some stuff that I haven't gotten to in my channel and on the free side of things. So that's what you can find right now, at least at the making of this video. Today's March 26th. You can get all the free videos that you can find on YouTube, but the future, there's still a lot of cool stuff that I want to do in the future that will never make it to YouTube. So if you really like Synthwave, if you really want to like what I teach and how I teach, it's going to be a great way to continue down that path is by joining the free membership, the free website. And also I have there a bunch of super cool downloads, like all the stuff that I talk about in my videos, like the Excel sheets and the PDFs and some drum samples and Vital and Juno banks, whatever. I have all that for free without sign up or email requirements, etc.
Oh, that's cool.
And
Wow.
Yeah, I saw you had some like drum samples on there too.
Yeah, it's a collection that I made from samples all over the web, like classic stuff like Lindrum, the Roland 707, R8, etc. But just I put them together in a very organized folder structure. I chopped off the top and the tails of a lot of samples. There's nothing more annoying to me that you're browsing samples and a snare has like a 1 second gap before it actually hits. So you have to adjust the start point in your sampler, but then the next one you have to set it back, etc. That annoyed the hell out of me. So I said, I'm going to make this sample pack for myself. And, a lot of people could benefit from this. So I'm going to make it available for free. And I have a bunch of stuff like that. And also every now and then I've been teaching, I would say like live classes, and I'm planning a few to have them there so people can sign up, join the wait list. And the last one that I taught was a class called Track in a Month, where I took a very small group of synthwave producers from around the world, Germany, Austria, Spain, the US. And over the period of 4 weeks, I took them through my process for creating a full-length track in a month. So the first week was one thing, the second week another thing, so on and so forth. And everyone created an idea for the program, and at the end of it, they came out with a finished master. And it was like this super cool experience where they had assignments, They had deadlines, we had a virtual call every week, then we had a celebratory call at the end of the thing, and people were like so energized and
awesome.
Super happy of going through that boot camp kind of thing, right? It's super hectic when you're in it, super busy, a lot of stuff to do, but when you get to the other side, it's like, cool, man, I did this thing in a month. Wow. I can't believe it.
Mm-hmm. And that month is more beneficial than them like surfing this, looking at that. Okay, I'm out. They need someone like some structure. That's a good, well-spent month right there.
And also it's for showing them, the people who participated, that you don't need to spend months and months on the same track. At least for me, I think time is a killer. Time is your biggest enemy. And that the more time you give to art,
100% agree.
The higher your chances that you're not going to finish it, and that you can make really good tracks in a month or less. These days, if I really focus and set aside time, I can create a full length track in 2 weeks without a doubt. And if I really want it, I can do it inside of a week. But typically, again, it doesn't take me months and years. It's like when I hear people online saying, yeah, I've been working on this 3-track EP for 2 years. It's like, what? What are you doing? Really?
Oh my God.
I would have preferred you make 50 tracks, even though they were, let's say, not the best tracks out there. It doesn't matter. It's all practice. Than just working on the same 2 tracks for 2 years. Of course, I'm being extreme, but 6 months or whatever. It's like you're not building your skills. You're not going to get better by working on the same tracks for months on end. That doesn't happen. You want to get better at playing basketball, play every day. The guy that plays once a month, if you play every day, you're going to beat that guy in 6 months or so, right? So it's all about practice, and the outcome, it doesn't matter. Just make tracks, take care, do quantity, and quality will take care of itself. At least that's my view. Do as much as you can within your means, and forget about quality. Quality will come in time once you've developed your skills.
Yeah, it's what's weird about like the quality versus quantity thing. There's a you remember how like when we first start our journey on like on music production, right? We're like, okay, here's our first couple tracks, and we feel like we're cranking out tracks after tracks. I mean, they're not great. The mix sounds awful, but we have this creative vibe, and we're just like spitting things out like you're at McDonald's, just giving out hamburgers. But then as your knowledge increases and your technical skills starting to get better, and you start understanding these different plugins and techniques, as you start getting better, you start producing less tracks, and it's a weird kind of like teeter-tottering kind of concept where it's like, I'm getting better. I know what EQ does. I have a good pair of monitors or headphones. But man, I've written like 1 track in the last month, where before I'd crank out a track every day. And the whole concept is like, as you get better, you become more critical of yourself, and you're like, oh, well, that lead's too loud. Oh, this doesn't sound right. So you're kind of, it's a weird way where you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot, but you're also getting a little bit better. And that's kind of a struggle of left brain, right brain that I think that we kind of all go through. I don't know if you guys have felt that before, but you know.
What are your thoughts on that, Chris?
Weird way to think about it.
You know what? I'm all about just like moving forward. And if it's, I used to never finish tracks, and that was one of my problems, is I would get to a point where I'd be like, okay, like I have the basic 32 bars or 64 bars now, and I'd never make it to that final push. Even if I had the track all laid out, the hardest part for me is focusing on the details of it and really getting into like the transition. But, you know, just this last weekend, I got a new plugin called Transit, which was like a transitional plugin that you can use just to make transitions. And I was doing what you were saying earlier. I was making an entire track using only one synthesizer. And so I just limited myself to that one synth, and I was just making the track. And oh my God, it was like I had maybe a minute and a half done at the beginning of my day, but by the end of it, I had a full 8-minute long track. And it was this really like wonderful experience. And at the end of the day, like I came back in from the studio. I'm always like, how was your day? I'm like, it was great. I made a track. I had tons of fun doing it. She's like, wow, that's awesome. You know, like you just like enjoy the whole process. Right. And I think that, you know, now that I've really gotten into and dialing in I don't know, I speak for myself. I don't know about you guys, but like, I love finishing tracks. I love getting to that point where I'm
such
just
a
like,
good feeling.
Yeah. You're just like, you get to the point where you're like, I'm done. And now it's I'm either send it off to mastering or whatever, but it's like you've just reached that point where you're like, yes, and that feeling will keep you coming back. You know what I'm saying? It'll keep, and then that's how you build up albums. Like I just released a record, last week, and then like I just that feeling of like, okay, it's done, and then hearing the response from people is something that that's what keeps me going. I consistently chase after it.
I'm a big proponent of building your body of work. If you consider guys like Picasso or Dali or some others, it's not like they only had 5 pieces of works of art, and they were all famous and changed the world. Guys like Picasso and Dali had thousands and hundreds of works of art. Of course, not all of them made it to the museums and to the galleries, but they were always making art. They were always finishing stuff. And whether those pieces, they thought they could transform the world or not, I don't think. If they knew, they just finished the pieces. The same thing as you're saying. I'm a huge proponent of building your body of work, and for this year, my goal is to produce 25 full-length tracks. And I just released my 4th track of the year. And to me, it's always about getting to the finish line, finishing the tracks with the skills that I have right now. And my best track will always be my next track. You know, like I do my best right now. I'm not going to agonize over it, whatever flaws it has. it is what it is. I just let it go out into the world, and I'm on to the next one. I just almost don't give myself any time to, I don't know, think about the experience. I do capture some notes and how to make my process better, etc., and what I want to do next. But it's this thing of like shipping a product, right? You create this thing and then you ship it off to the world, and you're off to the next thing. And I believe in having fun, and again, being doing your work with a lot of effort, the best that you can, but at the same time, not thinking that the weight of the world is on your shoulders, like you're trying to transform the world with this particular track. Maybe you will transform your world with your body of work, right? In a decade or so, who knows? Maybe. But so it's like this duality of I have fun, I like the magic of discovering what the track needs, the path it takes me down on, always being super playful. And of course, I run into the wall that happens to me on every track that I produce, where you start out really good, like with a lot of momentum and progress. You hit a wall where you don't know how to go anywhere, like the proverbial hero's journey. But then you know that the wall is going to come, resistance, and you somehow overcome that obstacle. And at the other side, you have your finished track. And I really don't care if it's my best work or my worst work. I don't know. I can't be the judge of my music. I just do my best effort. I try to align with the gods of music, have fun, do my best effort, and then ship it and off to the next one. And I have seen that in time, my skills do develop, and that I have this joy of making music that a lot of people out there don't have. Or a lot of people making music is super anxiety-inducing, super painful and frustrating. They agonize over the three layers of their bass and whether their kick has the punch. It's like, man, no one cares really if the kick has the impact that you think it has, or whether the melody is the best melody. No one cares about that. What they care is the emotional connection that they feel when listening to the track. And just make your best effort and be happy with it. You know, get to the point in your life when you're ready to leave this earth, look back and say, wow, did I really create those 300 tracks? As opposed to, wow, I created those 3 tracks. What if I had done 300 more, right? That's kind of the way that I see it. Have fun, and it doesn't matter really. Do your best effort, but just go with it and try stuff out, and don't be afraid of falling flat on your face, of doing something. At least for me, I'm not the synthwave that I do, and what I show on the channel can be different. The music that I make, I would say synthwave adjacent, synthwave-ish, but you couldn't say, at least the stuff that I made so far, oh yeah, I can hear the Midnight and Time Cup directly in there. I kind of do my own thing, for better or worse, my own flavor, right? So I'm really not trying to do this with the intention of fitting the genre, and I really don't care if I do something that is not particularly under the umbrella of synthwave. I just do whatever feels right for me at this time, and we'll see on the next track what I do, right? What inspires me and what I can come up with. But I'm also not too hung up with a genre thing, whether it's retro wave or dark synth, or too much of this or too little of that. I don't like that.
Yeah, like I don't understand that at all. Yeah, because like just kind of getting into it, like I was telling Chris before, I was like, yeah, so come to find out, there's like so many different, like, I guess that makes sense in every musical genre, but like there's this subcategory. I'm like, I don't care. Whatever just sounds cool and fun at the time, I'll just do it. I'm trying to capture this essence of whatever energy this is in a bottle, hopefully in the same day, and just lay it all out. I don't really care about mixing it at the moment. Just capture whatever it is that's inspiring me, lay that down into the track, and then once you got that, then maybe the next day you can come in, okay, let me put a lead in there. Let me make a cool transition. Let me do some automation, stuff like that, right? So
you guys think synthwave is bad? Imagine ambient. It's just absolutely
is it the same thing? This is like
it's
dark
beyond
ambient.
Cosmic. I mean, that's so many different micro subgenres and stuff, and I'm like, I just gave up right at the beginning. I'm like, it's all ambient. I don't care. Like you got drums in your music. It's ambient. You got no drums. You know, you can do lo-fi. Cool, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like it's.
I feel like ambient is so spacey that it'll have like multiverses. Like this is the multiverse of this ambient because it's
oh my
so
god!
Like,
if I had a flow chart, you know what I'm saying, of the microgenres or those pie charts or something, I don't know. It's crazy.
So is it like you put a kick in like the middle of the song and they're like, okay, now if there's a kick in here, this is a different
like
genre.
I said,
I
stopped caring. You know, going back to what Alonso was saying about like, you know, not being overly critical with your work. Like I think in my 20s, I was like very fancy free and I didn't care what people thought. And then during my 30s, I got to that critical stage where I was kind of almost afraid to release stuff because I was like, I had prior success, and then I was like, I wanted to repeat that prior success. You know what I'm saying? And now in my 40s, I'm halfway through my 40s, and I'm just like, I don't care what people think. Like, I am back to that. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, that's where you should.
I
That's
really
a
don't care what people
though.
think, and I'm just gonna put out the best of what I have right, because that's what I think an album is. An album is a capture in a moment of time. Like that was me in that moment of time. And when I look back at my albums, I go, yeah, that was that. You know, my 2020 album was very significant because I mean, the whole world was going through something in 2020, and I was like, this is my record. You know what I'm saying? And like, I love that album. I feel it's like one of my favorites. But yeah, it's just like, you capture an essence of a time period in your life, and then you can look back on it and say, okay, cool. That was then. That was the best I had right in that moment. And that's how it came out. You know, I labeled it, I packaged it up, I sold it. And then it was like, now you're on to the next thing, which is now, you know, the present day. So
that's an important thing. Cause it's like how Alonso was saying, he's like, yeah, some people work on a track for like 2 years for like 3 songs or something. I know it's exaggeration, but like, How on earth are you going to capture this essence over a 3-year period? Like a lot can happen.
That's what I'm saying.
Years.
It's impossible. It's impossible to drag that out. So you know, if I encounter like say one of my coaching clients who's like, I've been working on this track for weeks. I'm like, just stop working on it, and maybe revisit that in 2 months or 3 months. But get going on something else. Like keep your fire burning. You know, on even if it's just 1 track or 2 tracks, the way I work, I don't know about anybody else, but I make like, I'll start like 8 tracks, and then I'll start 8 tracks, and then I'll go back to track 1 again and start the next phase of that track. I mean, maybe it's sometimes it's 8, sometimes it's like less than that, maybe it's 6 tracks, but then I'll just kind of continually rotate and go through the list until I have 6 tracks that are like almost fully fleshed out, and then I have to go in and zero in on the details of them. But that's just how I work, you know, it's just like a constant rotation. So at least if I get bored or I kind of get burnt out on one idea, I go, okay, I'm gonna move on to the next one, open that in the folder, keep working on that one. And then by the time I get back around to 1 again, I'm like, oh, this is like, I remember where I was, you know, and then I'll just continue on.
And that's the great thing about making music, that no one does it the same way as you. For example, me personally, I use this thing called an active production list with this, which is just an Excel sheet or Google sheet, whatever. And what I do is I work on my tracks just one by one. I don't formally start another track with intention of finishing it until I finish the current one. That's why I call it an active production list. So I'll put it there. Like for example, this track, I'll put the date when I'm putting it in the list, and the date, my target date for finishing that. And I will not work on new tracks. I do work on what I call like etudes or test and practice stuff right in the middle of that. But I will not start a full-length track with the intention of finishing it until I get this one off my list. And that really helps me to focus. And I try to work very diligently and focused in chunks of 2 weeks. And I typically finish all my tracks in 2 weeks, maybe less, maybe just a few days later. And for example, the current track that I just released, I finished it in 4 weeks. And I typically invest between 15 to 20 hours, give or take, in the production. Sometimes I work 45 minutes in a day, and the next day an hour and a half, like so, in the 2 week time frame. And this track that took me a month, I didn't cumulatively work more hours than the other tracks. It's just that I couldn't sit down and get to it because I was busy with other stuff. So it took me like a month to finish, but the hours that I put in were the same as the others. And once I got over my typical 2 week period, I found myself getting lost in where was I? I'm not so excited about this track anymore. Like that idea of time being your enemy started to play with me. And a few times I was like, do I really want to finish this track? No, I got to do this. You know, the Synthwave Warriors journey, my martial arts training, I'm going to do this no matter what. And other days it was like, I haven't gotten back to whatever. Then I just said, no, I'm going to finish this track. Finish it inside a month, 2 weeks more that I wanted. But I'm really happy that I did, again, because like I got to follow my own principles. I'm super happy because even though I lost steam and enthusiasm along the way, once I finished it, I felt so happy and I got the original enthusiasm back. It's like, I'm so happy I didn't quit, right? I'm drinking my own Kool-Aid here. What I'm talking about is what I'm doing with on my channel with the students, etc. And I also go through these frustrations and obstacles. And it's not like I'm a synthwave or music production genius where everything comes easy to me. I also have life to contend with and a lack of motivation and loss of energy. But I made it through, and I was like, I'm so happy that I did. Now that's my 4th track for that EP onto the 5th one, and yeah. Good for me. That's like a notch on your belt, and this gives you a confidence boost that, yeah, I can do this. I got it right. I got in the ring. I got some punches and some kicks and elbows to the face, but all in all, I can beat this. I can do it again, right? Because I've done it many times before. Let's go.
Alonso,
even, I don't know if it's...
I speak for everyone here. We all drink our own Kool-Aid, okay? Like,
because it's good. Like, what are you trying to say?
We all believe our own bullshit at some time or another. You described this whole thing about synthwave warriors. Do you have a background in martial arts? We never covered that. Oh, you do. So that's where the whole dojo thing came from.
That, and because there's a lot of karate and martial arts references in synthwave from movies by Van Damme and a whole bunch of shows like and movies like Karate Kid and Cobra Kai, the new Netflix show. So it's like martial arts are like part of the bread and butter of synthwave in many different styles. So it kind of felt really good in that sense.
Jean-Claude, is that right?
And
I don't know,
possibly. Like a few months ago, I watched Kickboxer. And what was the other one? Bloodsport again. And I hadn't watched them in like 20 years. And I was like, I had so much fun, so amazed by the music, the super cool guys who made those soundtracks. You hear it's mostly DX7s and Lin drums everywhere, galore. And all the marimbas and the EPs and all the typical Top Gun bass, bass number 1 from the DX7. And I had such a great time listening to the soundtrack, then enjoying the music, that I had to do some of that on my own. And I did some renditions or music influenced by those martial arts movies on my channel. It was like discovering some of that stuff that I hadn't experienced in a while. Like there was so much great music being done back then with way less tools than we have right now. And it's like you have 50 cents at DAW. You can't make any tracks. Come on, man. What are you talking about?
Yeah, like we can carry the V collection in our backpacks, right? So like that's pretty insane. But then these songs back when you're like, these are actually really good. Like just a pad going, you're like, man, I can make a pad, but that pad though, that one, what happened here? You know what I mean? And they had way less stuff than we do now.
Yeah, those guys, they did so much with less. And guys like Depeche Mode, they didn't have, when they started out, 25 synths at their disposal. Maybe they had 1 or 2 or 3. And they figured out, like, if you press this button, twist this knob, it will do a weird clicking sound that's not in the manual. But they learned that via trial and error, and they used that for a snare or something. And if you read up on tracks made by all of those synth pop bands in the 80s, the British and the ones in the US, you'll find that they said that, there's typically one guy in the band who knows the 1 or 2 piece of hardware like inside out, and they would use them on for all the sounds on those releases, typically album per album. And they would really milk each of these synths for everything they had, right? And now it's like, oh man, I get bored. Let me fire up whatever for a bass line. Let me fire up, I don't know, the OBX for a pad. It's like, learn to, again, going back to the restraint of one synth.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Try to do everything with one synth like these guys did. There's something really cool about that.
Well, I'm inspired. How about you, John?
I'm going to make my 4th one maybe tonight, dude. Yeah, like, I don't know what it is, like that energy capturing in a bottle. It's like 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. I'll crack open a Red Bull and I'll stay up like 3 in the morning till the song's done, and then maybe do something the next day. And all right, it's done, it's out. I forget about it. It's not part of me anymore. Next track.
Do it.
It's weird, dude.
And
so where do you see the future of your channel going, Alonso? Like what's the whole plan with Synthwave Dojo?
I think on the channel, I'm still going to post similar stuff like I've been posting. I don't think I'll be posting like gear reviews or plugin reviews. There's plenty of people who do that. I'm not going to be posting 5 hacks for Synthwave anytime soon. Still trying to...
Synthwave's producers hate this.
Still try to find how else to teach the basics and the fundamentals so people get it, right? Maybe if I go deeper in certain topics that I haven't gotten around to. I would like to see if I can bring people maybe such as yourselves and have interviews, some kind of podcast or something, or up-and-coming synthwave producers talk shop. I want to see how I can do some more of that. I always want to be very big on making music live. I don't know if you've ever watched any of my live streams, but I really like creating a short piece in 2 hours live in front of a global audience and running with some kind of idea with the adrenaline that comes. I kind of feel like
I do
Bob
like
Ross,
that, though.
that.
I do like that process.
And let's go with it. Let's see what happens. We're dealing with obstacles left and right, and at the end, you have to deliver something. I like that adrenaline and making music on the spot, because it's really easy. Most producers out there who have channels, they will spend countless hours, and then they will say, "Hey, Synthwave in 5 minutes, right?" Or ambient music in 5 minutes.
That's
you
true.
know that it didn't take them 5 minutes. Can you show me really how you do that? I know that Chris does that, and I love the things that you do. But more of that, more opportunities of making music live, showing people what are the obstacles that you run, because I'm not perfect. Sometimes I say, this is not working. Let me figure out with the global audience watching, how can I solve this, right? It's like going back to the training.
Mm-hmm. And we all go through that, because you're showing off a skill. You're not showing off like, this is the finished product. You're showing product or problem solving in the spot. If something's not working, you have to realize that and say, okay, this isn't working. I don't like this. So what are our options? How can we solve this problem?
And you can't be afraid of making mistakes, because we all do, right? You do some things like throwing spaghetti at the wall. It doesn't work. Then try something else, right? So more of that stuff on the channel. I think I will be diving deeper into more complex or more formally structured content. I'll do that on my website, on my platform, and I don't know, it's just more of the same, still finding different ways of saying the same things so people aren't bored. But and again, just trying to see how I can keep things fresh, but no big changes like Synthwave in 5 minutes. I don't think I'm gonna be doing anything like that.
I like that you don't do that, because like looking at your channel, like some of the videos that you have, it's like 1 hour 45, 2 hours. I'm like, hell yeah, this is where the meat and the potatoes are at, right here. Because you can spend all day looking at 5 minutes videos, right? And you might get something maybe, but if you spend like, I don't know, the entire day watching 50 or 65-minute videos, you're going to spend that time anyway, but you really aren't going to get that value. Rather, if you just watch one of your streams, watch how you go through the process. I mean, I kind of like that too, because I noticed you don't really cut your videos like all jump cutty and which is nice, because you can actually follow what you're doing in the real time, which is why I don't like editing a lot of my stuff either. Like, if I make a weird sound or something sounds dumb, like, oh, there we go, let's change that real quick, because we all do that, right? Why don't I hear the second oscillator? Oh, because it was off, right? Duh. We all do that. This compressor sounds good, and you look and it's bypassed.
Exactly. You're like, why isn't this thing making any sound? Yeah, it's muted. And what you said, this the culture that we have right now, where everyone wants everything in 5 minutes, and there's like so much information. When I started music production back in the 2000s, there was no YouTube, there was nothing, and I made BS music for years and years. There was no one to turn to guide me, to mentor me. It was me like listening to music, seeing how can I do this on Cakewalk, Sonar, whatever, or Reason 1. And there was no information, but right now there's like so much information out there, so many videos out there that you can go down the rabbit hole of trying to figure out what's important. Is watching a 15-minute video on how to triple compress multi-band your hi-hats, is that really gonna get you anywhere if you're a beginner? Or show me going from beginning to end how to create an idea, warts and all. And that's kind of in the mindset that I get with the things that I try to show, right? It's more of that. How can I give the viewer, for the most part, and the entire experience of how to actually make music, not just the bits and pieces here and there. Of course, there's fundamental knowledge that I can't teach everything inside a 2-hour live stream. So I have certain videos for drum patterns and bass lines you can go and watch, but I'm also showing you how to put it all together, because if I only show you the bits and pieces, you're still like scratching your head. Okay, now what do I do with all this? How do I put it together? And that's where you see, oh, he's doing this. Oh, he's dropping the clips here. Oh, this is how he creates the initial balance for his drum set. I was doing it completely ass backwards, right? And that kind of thing. So I really like making visible to people how to actually make music, right? Not just 3-minute videos of a feature or how to compress a kick, how to advance your skills and see something that you can actually use. That's what I am all about.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's weird when you see videos out there, and it's like they're going back and forth, right? So like if I'm laying down a track for whatever reason, I'll try to get the music, the arrangement, that out first, right? If there's something crazy in the low end, okay, maybe I'll like high cut it or something like that, whatever, and then move on. But I'm not gonna sit there and like dial in like for like an hour, like, okay, maybe this pre-delay, oh no, maybe that's a little too much. Okay, no, let me just distort the reverb tails a little bit. Let me automate. I'm like, dude, no, get that. That's for a later time. Get the song out first. Even if it sounds like muddy and gross, get the idea out. Because if someone's like filming a movie or something like that, they're not doing post-production like right there. That's why it's called post. It's after you get the content, get the content first, get the good stuff, and then go refine it, sand it, make it nice, and then you can do it. It's a process.
Certainly. And I've had plenty of people tell me, I watched your 1 hour live stream or 2 hours or whatever. And for me, they said, in 2 hours, I'm just still trying to pick the right hi-hat sample. I can't even get a groove going in 2 hours. It's like, man, you're doing it all wrong. That's why I'm trying to show this thing to you, right? Because it's, for the most part, the hat sample or the kick sample, give or take, it doesn't matter that much, right? At the end of the day, it's about making progress, and you can figure out down the road if you need to change the sound. But don't spend 2 hours or 3 hours coming up with a let's say your initial 8-bar loop. You can do that in 45 minutes as long as you pick just 4 or 5 layers. That's it. You don't need to create the masterpiece 8-bar loop. 45 minutes is enough. If you're spending 3 hours, 5 hours just in your initial idea, you're doing it wrong, man. You're just doing it too hard on yourself. It's like,
And I'd argue too, in that 45 minutes, if you have that stack, like you're saying, you have all the stuff you need for your track to be completed. Now you just got to puzzle it right and make it interesting and arrange it right. You have all the materials ready. It's like, I'm making a hamburger. You have all the ingredients. Now you just got to put it on top of each other in a tasty, delicious way.
Exactly.
That's all.
We talked about hamburgers multiple times on this podcast, man.
I'm talking about pizza. That's your thing. The dough sauce.
So Big Mac episode.
So John, is there any other questions that you have for Alonso before we wrap up today?
I actually, I am kind of curious. So this is one thing that I did start doing a little bit to kind of retroize it. I started using some of the Mellow-Fi from Arturia, and it did some cool things. I spent a little time, like 10 minutes really, on kind of a preset on the master and getting a little bit of that goodness, whatever we want to call it. Is there any kind of tricks like that you have up your sleeve to, once you have your track done, the arrangement, it's mixed, it's pretty much done. Any kind of like small little enhancements or maybe some crackles here, some hiss or something like that you add to things? Some spice?
To be honest, it's weird because I'm in the synthwave scene, but I really hate and despise the cassette tape thing where you hear the track and it's like someone putting the cassette into the tape player. Like, be prepared to experience nostalgia, or the wobbly VHS thing.
Oh, I didn't know that was a thing. Like the actual, like a sample of someone putting it in and pressing.
I was going to ask you, like, do you use like tape emulator plugins like the RC20 or anything like that, like to create like analog style movement in the track?
To finish the thought, I don't like that.
Yeah.
The wobbly thing, the VHS, the crackle. I don't do it. I think it's overdone, kind of cheesy. What I do use is some tape emulation plugins by whomever. There's plenty out there. A little bit of saturation tape. There's a couple of like transformer plugins or True Iron by Kazrock. Like some of those plugins that are trying to simulate like the transformers in a console or tape. I do tend to add a little bit of that to all of my subgroups inside my project and also in my mastering chain. Mm-hmm. And they do add a little bit of that vibe and weight and body to it. But I never use the wobbly thing or the VHS or the crackle. I don't know. It's fine if anyone out there uses them. I believe they're not for me. So I don't use those kinds of special effects in my tracks. I don't like them, to be honest. So it's more some of those tools to make things sound with a little bit more weight and warmth that everyone else in the land of electronic music production uses to just little bits, right? Like you're putting a little bit of cinnamon and pepper. Well, pepper and salt on your meals, just a little bit at the end. It does help to enhance the flavor. If you do it too much, it tastes awful and sounds weird.
Wow. I do have one more question for you, Alonso. Being that you're like a professional synthwave producer, like what's up with everybody using the colors pink and blue for their stuff? Like, is that like a thing? Like, is this like every time you hear synthwave, vaporwave, you just see pink and blue and like there's like all this style and you're like, did that start somewhere? Is that like something that I missed along the way, or is it just something that you guys all
It's one of those
towards?
tropes in synthwave, like the cassette deck thing, the VHS wobbly thing. There are some archetype stuff from the 80s when it comes to visual arts and music. There used to be some like ads back in the 80s that would have like the Synthwave grid. I don't remember if it was for the Profit something or the OBX. Actual manufacturers would create print ads that had the Synthwave neon grid and some of those colors. Back in the day, also there were a lot of clothing like OP, etc., that had those super neon colors in for shorts and socks and whatever. So some of those colors you did find them in also like in management training videos and like cheesy broadcast music, and all of that vibe plays very much into synthwave. And for whatever reason, some of the people that that associated synthwave with some of that cheesy tropes from the 80s figured out that those color schemes like worked very well with the scene or with the music that they were trying to make. So it's now something that you see the hot pink and the cyan, right, or the purple, you immediately associate with synthwave. Definitely the grid, the neon grid. You can veer from that.
I mean, I had a professional. I had to ask a professional, like, what's up with that? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the kind of information you really want to know.
Vaporwaves and the bust of, I don't know, the whatever Roman statues and some other stuff. They become memes for a particular scene. I don't know, or Cadillacs and hip hop. I don't know who came up with that, but you immediately see that certain things, certain items, and you associate them with the movement. For better or worse.
Yeah.
It's funny because like I bet you those guys back in the 80s when they're like designing this artwork, right? What became, what we're talking about now, they're probably, this is going to be the future. This is futuristic stuff. And then the future is now, right, for us. And we're like, no, that's you guys. That's past. That's retro. That's old. So like it's kind of funny how like we're both bouncing the ball. Like they're bouncing it forward to us. We catch it and throw it right back at them. So it's like, who does this ball actually belong to?
Yeah.
Weird tangent, but that's just how my head works. Yeah.
Now, it's kind of in the same discussion as, is synthwave music from the 80s, yay or nay, right? There's two camps. There's a camp that says, yeah, it's retro 80s, trying to sound like music made in the 80s. And there's other people that say, no, it's about the nostalgia and the culture and how that made me feel, right? And for others, it's, for example, like me, it's not really about 80s music. It's about using some of those tools and production techniques and really making something synthy that, if you use those tools, immediately places you inside that, under that umbrella, right? But if you ask guys like Kavinsky in college, I've watched interviews and read articles about them. When they created this music, they were the let's say the proto synthwavers or the founders of this thing. They weren't going for an 80s sound. They said they made references to 80s culture in the US, like the malls and the Goonies and the movies, but the music that they made was closer to Daft Punk, made with more, emulation synths from maybe the 80s and a different kind of sound, but there was a super strong influence of French house, and their music didn't sound 80s at all, right? Like some people today try to make it, and it's all valid, right? So it's like Mac versus PC, Mercedes versus BMW. There's the two camps. It's a war that will never end. But I just move in that continuum from one side to the next. And for me, it's, if you play a fat line bass kind of patch, continuous 8th or 16th notes, and you use like a classic drum machine from the 80s and any of those emulation synths, to me, it's like that's the 80% the synthwave sound, whether you want it or not. That's going to place you right in the under synthwave. If you want to stretch it here or there, more futuristic, more retro, that's up to you. But that places you in a very good spot to create synthwave.
Right on,
that's a good spot. So if anybody's looking to find where you're at, where you host all your videos, your courses, your instruction work, and they
certainly synthwavedojo.com and my Synthwave channel at Synthwave Dojo. Those are the two main places where you can find me, and you can leave me comments. I always reply to all of my comments. If you join the platform, I think my email's there on everywhere. You can send me any question, if you want my advice, just let me know. I may not get back to you immediately, possibly within 24 hours or so, but I'm always trying to help others out. So never feel afraid to reach out or hesitant. If you have a question, if there's any way I can help you out, just let me know. I'm here.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on, man. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, John and Chris. I've really enjoyed this time together, and I hope it's not the last one. I've had a blast, and I've learned a lot from you guys, not only today but on each of you's channels. I hope that you continue making doing your super awesome work, and I hope to continue learning from you guys in the future.
Will do.
Absolutely. Thanks, man.
Thanks,
Great.
Alonso.
We'll see you guys on the next episode.
Ciao, guys.
If you're interested in supporting the podcast, please subscribe to the Signs of Life and John Audio channels on YouTube. The link for our channels is down below in the description and in the show notes. For the video version of this show, please subscribe to the Harmonic Horizons YouTube channel to keep up with all the latest episodes. For bonus content, including additional podcast material, head over to the Signs of Life Patreon page. Paid members get access to Beyond the Horizon, our new series of extended conversations with our guests, as well as several other benefits such as early access to all of his videos, exclusive ambient tutorials, over 100 preset packs for various synthesizers, one-on-one coaching for ambient and electronic music, and tons more. If you'd like to support John Audio and the work he does, head over to his YouTube channel and subscribe. You can also check out his Gumroad page for a selection of free and paid preset packs. Finally, he has a Patreon page where subscribers get access to additional content, such as exclusive music, presets for various synths such as Pigments and Diva, specialized courses, and more. Harmonic Horizons is hosted on Buzzsprout and is now available on all major platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, and all other major podcast directories. If you'd like to reach out to us or would like to be a guest on the show, you can contact us at harmonichorizonspodcast@gmail.com. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.